Good morning, everyone. How's everybody? Good morning. Happy 4th of July. Welcome to the National Archives. I'm Allison Seymour, and I thank you for being here today. I love being down here for the kickoff of America's big birthday party, so good morning to you. And I want to thank the Experience Band for keeping us entertained. Let's hear it for the band. The National Archives, of course, is the permanent home of the Declaration of Independence. For over 50 years, the Archives has hosted a ceremony on this day, July 4th, to celebrate our independence. And this is the kickoff event for all of today's patriotic activities in our nation's capital. And right after the ceremony, stay right here to enjoy more live music, followed by the National Independence Day Parade right here on Constitution Avenue. Or, it's hot today, you can escape the heat, come on inside the National Archives to see the original Declaration of Independence and participate in so many family activities. And then later this evening, of course, the National Symphony Orchestra will present its annual concert, Capitol 4th, in front of the U.S. Capitol. And then after the concert, of course, you can enjoy those beautiful fireworks on our National Mall. And many of you might have noticed our volunteers carrying the big signs with today's hashtag and other social media information. But if you haven't seen them, or you can point your attention to somebody with the sign, because we want everybody to know about the great ceremony that's happening right now. Please post on social media. The National Archives is on Instagram and on X as US Nat Archives. So post away. Please share your 4th of July experience using that hashtag ArchivesJuly4. And after the ceremony, don't miss our special Declaration of Independence signing booth. That booth will be set up inside the museum along with other great family activities. So please stay around, enjoy the day, and celebrate our independence. And now, I ask that we all please rise for the presentation of the colors by the 2nd Continental Color Guard from the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard, and that will be followed by the Marymount University Chamber Singers singing the National Anthem. Now we have the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps. Their uniforms are from the Revolutionary War era, and so is their music. And I'm pleased to present Command Sergeant Major Lutricia Fields to narrate their performance. Please join me in welcoming the Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The United States Army Military District of Washington, under the command of Major General Trevor J. Bradenkamp, is proud to present the United States Army Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps. Since 1960, the Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps has carried on the Army's tradition of excellence, acting as the official escort to the President of the United States. The Corps wears uniforms patterned after those of General Washington's Continental Army. In order to be easily identified, military musicians wore the reverse colors of the assigned regiment. At that time, American infantry soldiers wore blue coats with red facings. Thus, the musicians wore red coats with blue facings. During the Revolutionary War, sounds of the fife, bugle, and drum could be heard across the battlefield as brave soldiers fought for our nation's independence. Soldier musicians harness the unifying power of music to rally the troops, express cultural identity, and entertain. On the night of Paul Revere's historic ride, bugler Abel Benson also rode, sounding the alarm. Zeal Lew served as a fifer and drummer in 2 American wars and was praised for his bravery at the Battle of Bunker Hill. A female bugler from Michigan disguised herself as a man to fight in the American Civil War under the alias Frank Martin. Alexander Johnson, a drummer and Civil War veteran, brought music back to his community by establishing a drum and bugle corps. Soldier musicians have been influential in shaping our nation's history. We're honored to highlight their individual contributions and recognize their selfless service. Composed on the home front and penned in soldiers' diaries, folk melodies have connected and inspired us throughout our nation's history. The Corps honors the legacies of our country's soldier musicians and all who have served with our stately and traditional troop step, set here to dawning of the day. A shared pride in our nation and the desire to find comfort in a new home ultimately brought Americans together to fight as one. On behalf of the Old Guard Commander, Colonel Thomas J. Kilbride, and the Fife and Drum Corps Commander, Chief Warrant Officer 3, Benjamin W. McMillan, it has been our pleasure performing for you today.
The Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps. Wonderful, thank you so much. Well, even though, please everybody be seated, I know it's hot. Even though this is the permanent home of the Declaration of Independence, that extraordinary piece of parchment is just one of billions of documents held in trust by the National Archives. The pieces of paper, the photographs, and the films in the holdings of the National Archives tell the story of democracy in the United States. And the mission of the National Archives is to make these documents available to you, the American people. Now I'd like to introduce you to a very important person to whom our nation has entrusted the care of the Declaration of Independence. Please welcome to the podium the 11th Archivist of the United States, Dr. Colleen Shogan.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Independence Day. It's great to see you here on the 248th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. This is my second 4th of July as Archivist of the United States, and I'm thrilled to be with you here today. I want to thank Allison Seymour for graciously joining us again this year as the MC. It's become a great tradition. As we celebrate our independence this morning, I want to take a moment to reflect on the document we're here to celebrate today. You know, we have 13.5 billion documents in the National Archives, and the Declaration of Independence is my favorite. We all know that the Declaration is the document that created the United States. It asserted our separation from Great Britain as a new sovereign nation. Despite its title, the Declaration does a lot more than just declaring our independence, and that's why I love it so much. More importantly, it declares that all people are created equal and that everyone possesses individual rights that cannot be taken away. These statements can, yes, applause. These statements contained in the Declaration are self-evident, as Jefferson wrote, but they are not self-executing. The responsibility of making sure our nation lives up to these ideals is not the job of politicians. Rather, it's our job as citizens of a democracy. So as we come together here on the 4th of July in our nation's capital, let's do two things. First, let's celebrate the progress we have made in fulfilling the promises contained in the Declaration of Independence. From Seneca Falls to Selma, we have claimed our rights in pursuit of a more perfect union. It has not always been easy, but we are a more just and a more equal nation because of these struggles. John Adams, who's here today, famously wrote to his wife, Abigail Adams, also here, that our independence should be celebrated with pomp and parade, with games, sports, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward, forevermore. Now, I don't know about a bonfire today, but we will certainly celebrate here at the National Archives. Secondly, in addition to our celebration today, I challenge everyone here to think about how we can continue the journey begun by Thomas Jefferson and our founders. Why is this important? Because the hard work of democracy is never over. We can never become complacent when it comes to the pursuit and protection of our God-given rights. And while it's important to declare those rights proudly, as we will today, when we listen to the Declaration read out loud, we need to stand behind them as well. Now, as I said in the beginning of my remarks, today is America's 248th birthday. That means we have a big one coming up in only 2 years. As we prepare for our nation's 250th anniversary in 2026, I can share today that the motto we have selected for our celebration across the National Archives is Declaration 250. As the home of the Declaration, we will be celebrating the ideals of equality and liberty enshrined in it, commemorating 250 years of resilience and the pursuit of happiness. We will be announcing an entire year's worth of events, discussions, and activities soon. And the good news is, everybody is invited. Now I'm honored to welcome the 19th Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Joanne Bass, as our keynote speaker today. Chief Bass served over 3 decades in the United States Air Force. She deployed for Operation Southern Watch, Enduring Freedom, and Iraqi Freedom, and in 2020, she became the first woman in our nation's history to be appointed as the highest-ranking non-commissioned officer in any branch of the United States military. Congratulations on your accomplishments and your unique place in the history of the armed services. In today's ever-changing world, we face countless challenges at home and abroad. Your leadership was both indispensable and inspirational. Chief Bass, I'm honored you chose to join us today, and thank you for your service. Please join me in welcoming Joanne Bass to the podium.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Dr. Shogan. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How many of y'all are glad to be here today? How many of y'all are glad it's not 100 degrees out there? I am so excited to be here with you in our nation's capital. Dr. Shogan, National Archives team, thank you so much for this incredible honor. Let me tell you all about this amazing nation that we serve in. When the daughter of two immigrants with very humble beginnings could stand before you on the steps of our National Archives to celebrate our 248th Independence Day. My father came here from Germany with my grandparents when he was just 4 years old in search for a better life. He joined the United States Army and met my mother, one of the hardest working people I know, while serving in Korea. The both of them taught me life principles, like treating your neighbor well and to put in the work. In fact, I had to put in some serious work to even get $5 when I was growing up. How many of y'all had that same experience? Because of those principles, they got to see their daughter go on and serve in the United States Air Force, your Air Force, America, closing out my career as a 19th Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force, caring for and advocating for the over 689,000 total force airmen. For more than 3 decades as a U.S. Airman, it was really easy, y'all, choosing my outfit every morning. I had the great privilege of wearing our nation's cloth every single day, along with a pair of combat boots, serving in your Air Force that flies, fights, and wins and delivers air power anytime, anywhere, so that we can have the freedoms that we all have today. Y'all give your Air Force a hand clap. Speaking of air power, before I go on, if you are a military member or a veteran, I'm going to ask you to please stand up or raise your hands, and you all join me in giving these folks a big hand clap of appreciation. Thank you. Our military members and veterans represent only 1% of Americans who serve or who have served in our military, and we thank you so much for your service and your sacrifice. And to everyone out here or online who has a family member or a friend who serves, thank you. Your support is essential to the men and women in uniform. It allows them to do what they do day in and day out. Thank you for your support to our military. And while I'm at it, for those of you who might consider joining the military, no, I'm not a recruiter, but I absolutely encourage you to do so. In fact, when people asked me why I joined, I let them know that when I graduated high school, I wasn't quite mature enough yet to go to college. And I had a dad who was not going to pay for college. I needed a GI Bill, y'all. I also remember my dad saying 4 years in the military never hurt anybody. How many of y'all heard that? Well, he was right. And 4 years never hurt anybody, and 4 years turned into 31 years. And having the opportunity to serve alongside some of the greatest Americans I'll ever know, I have gained a true understanding of what it means to serve. In fact, in my former Pentagon office and now in my home office, I kept 3 pictures along my wall with 3 foundational principles that I always wanted to make sure that I kept front and center. The first principle, never forget where you came from. This is a picture of my dad giving me the oath of enlistment, one of the proudest moments of my life, and probably his. Never mind the 90s air, #Aquanet. The second picture, never forget why you do what you do. This is a picture of Airman First Class Elizabeth Liz Jacobson, among the first killed in the Iraq War. She is my personal reminder that we stand on the shoulders of giants, and we owe it to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice to continue the fight to protect America's freedom. And the third principle, never, ever quit learning. That was a picture of the Barnes Center, an Air Force Center of Excellence in Montgomery, Alabama, where airmen go to acquire new skills, training, and education in service to America. Those 3 foundational principles, they're not just mine, those are American principles. We can trace them back to our founding documents housed right behind me, preserved by Dr. Shogan and her incredible team. Scratched into that thin and fading parchment is the iron foundation of everything we have accomplished as Americans. Those documents tell us where we come from, why we're here, and they empower us to continue learning, improving, and perfecting this experiment called democracy. It's how we went from a small agricultural economy in 1776 to the most powerful nation on earth in just a few short centuries. It's how we liberated the world from tyranny, not just once, but twice in the 20th century. It's how we went from learning how to fly in 1903 to putting a man on the moon in the span of a lifetime. It's how we, America, gave the world a light bulb and the telephone, the automobile and the airplane, the computer and the smartphone. We even gave the world baseball and football, by which I mean American football, y'all. The real football where you actually use your hands. We know who we are. We know why we do what we do, and we never, ever stop learning and improving. These principles, those documents that power our nation, that beautiful flag of ours, they belong to us. If you just look around even today, we are a diverse people from different walks of life, with different beliefs. And on occasion, we even support different football teams, though how anybody could not support the best NFL team, the Kansas City Chiefs, I shall never know. All right, Chiefs fans. But what matters most, more than any difference we ever have, is that we have a similar vision as Americans, a love of peace, liberty, and a commitment to ensuring that our children enjoy the freedoms that we all so cherish today. But here's the catch, y'all. Preserving those freedoms will require a whole-of-nation effort and a commitment to service. In fact, if we can all call it a national call to service, and not just by the folks who wear a military uniform. This will require all of us. It will require our government. It will require industry. It will require academia. It will require our communities, every single one of us, to do our part. Businesses, schools, teachers, coaches, firefighters, policemen, congressmen and women, parents, neighbors, and you know who else it's going to require? Our children. Kids, we need you, and I see a bunch of kids out there today, to be the best versions of yourself. That means studying hard, honing your science and math skills, learning a trade like carpentry, plumbing, electrical work. We need good tradespeople in America today. And we also need children to go to college. And most of all, to learn to be good citizens. And I get it, I have 2 kids. If it also means perfecting those viral dance moves and becoming influencers, we need it all. And for those of you who feel called like I did, we also need you in our military. Of course, I in particular, go Air Force. Whether Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, and our newest branch of service, the Space Force, we need talented people who think critically and have skills of all kinds and a willingness to serve. However, whether you serve in the military or not, if I can challenge you in any way, just like Dr. Shogan did, I'd like to challenge you in 2 ways that every single one of us here today can serve. And first, that is by recognizing the good in our fellow Americans. While we are a diverse nation with different beliefs and opinions, we are all Americans, and we must not allow our disagreements to take away the fact that we are united, we are free, and we are the greatest nation in the world. And there is far more that unites every single one of us than will ever divide us. And second, by getting involved in your community, whether volunteering in schools, coaching or mentoring our youth, cleaning up around the community, joining a civic organization, or giving a few hours of your time to a local shelter. As Dr. Shogan said, the hard work of democracy is never over, and our local towns and neighborhoods are the best place to carry on that work. The bottom line, regardless of how you serve, I'm asking and challenging every single one of you here to just serve. So many of us grew up looking at the U.S. flag in our classrooms, perched right there beside the chalkboard. Back then as a kid, I did not at all realize the power in that. In fact, I simply saw a brightly colored banner, not knowing the true meaning of the flag of the United States of America. Years later, my view changed. I saw it as my duty to carry that flag with strength and pride and to carry it in my uniform every single day. And only now, today, do I actually see the full reality that I wasn't carrying that flag. That flag was actually carrying me. It's what brought me, the daughter of 2 immigrants who love this country deeply, here before you today for this incredible honor. So for those of you who can, will you please stand and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to reaffirm our commitment to democracy, freedom, and loyalty to this amazing nation. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on this Independence Day, may we choose to serve our nation in some capacity or another. May we choose to see the good in one another, our fellow American, and may we take care of each other with brotherly love. May God bless you. May God bless America. Happy birthday, America!
Thank you so much. And now, I'm happy to introduce to you a very distinguished group of people who will read the Declaration of Independence. Our first three readers are General George Washington, Mr. John Hancock, and Mrs. Abigail Adams. Next, to read the grievances against King George III, we have three of the leaders of the Second Continental Congress with us, Mr. Thomas Jefferson, Mr. John Adams, and Dr. Benjamin Franklin. These three gentlemen know the words of the Declaration better than anyone else. All three served on the committee to draft the Declaration, and Mr. Jefferson was the primary author. And to read the names of the 56 signers of the Declaration, we are proud to have Private Edward Ned Hector of the 3rd Pennsylvania Artillery Company, free black colonial soldier, patriot, and hero. And finally, you're not off the hook. We're going to have some audience participation, just as our colonial forefathers would have done. As our special guests read the grievances against King George, watch for James Forten. Where are you, James? Watch for James Forten, historical abolitionist, Philadelphia sailmaker, and our town crier today. He'll assist by our volunteers holding the signs telling us when we will express our displeasure with a hearty boo. Can we try it? Boo.
You can do better than that.
Can we do it? That was a voice from somewhere back here. Can you do better than that? And now, the Declaration of Independence.
We're going to huzzah.
In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous Declaration of the 13 United States of America.
Huzzah!
When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Huzzah! Huzzah!
That they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Huzzah! Huzzah!
That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed.
Huzzah! Huzzah!
That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it.
Huzzah!
And to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness.
Huzzah! Huzzah!
Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes.
Huzzah! Huzzah!
And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
Huzzah! Huzzah!
Such
has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter this former system of government.
Huzzah! Huzzah!
The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world.
Huzzah! Huzzah!
He has refused
Not
his
too
assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good.
Lots of booing.
He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them.
He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only.
He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures.
He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people.
He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within.
He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands.
He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers.
He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries.
He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance.
He has kept among us, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislature.
He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power.
He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, given his assent to their acts of pretended legislation for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever.
He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us.
He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coast, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people.
He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation.
He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands.
He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of the frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions.
Well done. Well done.
In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people.
Nor have we been wanting in attention to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They, too, have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends.
We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right are to be free and independent state. That they are absolved of all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is, and ought to be, totally dissolved. And that as free and independent states, they have the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do.
And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we
mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Thank you, General Washington, Mr. Hancock, Mrs. Adams, Mr. Jefferson, Mr. Adams, Dr. Franklin, and Mr. Fortin. How stirring it is to hear those words just as they were written 248 years ago. How about another rousing round of applause? Now, Private Hector will read the names of the states and the signers of the Declaration, and we will show our approval, you heard it right there, by shouting, huzzah! Can we hear it?
Huzzah!
Once again, watch for the town crier, assisted by our volunteers, holding those signs to show you when to shout. So, after Private Hector reads the names of the signers from each state, let's huzzah our approval. But first, let's practice one more time a hearty huzzah on the count of 3. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Huzzah!
Beautiful. Now remember, we're going to wait for Private Hector to read all the names from each state, and then we're going to shout out our approval with a huzzah. And now, the names of the signers of the Declaration of Independence.
My friends, no, my fellow citizens, words are powerful, are they not? And these are the words that made what we are, made us into the nation that we have become. These are the people that were willing to stand up and lead us into a new reality, a new nation, a new people. Join me as we honor these people. And just so that we are straight on this, there's no man that I know of that would ever claim that what he does, that he really does only on his own. We forget about the women sometimes that are behind what gets done. So, even though the names of the women may not be spoken, let's keep them in our hearts. Join me. President of the Continental Congress, the Honorable John Hancock. Huzzah! Georgia, Button Gwinnett, Lehman Hall, and George Walton. Huzzah! North Carolina, William Hoop, Joseph Hughes, and John Penn. Huzzah! South Carolina, Edward Rutledge, Thomas Hayward Jr., Thomas Lynch Jr., and Arthur Middleton. Huzzah! Maryland! Edward Rutledge, Thomas Hayward Jr., and I believe I'm reading the wrong group. You know what? Even so, still worthy. As I said, Maryland. Samuel Chase, William Packer, Thomas Stone, and Charles Carroll of Carrollton. Huzzah! Virginia! George Wythe, Richard Henry Lee, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Harrison, Thomas Nelson Jr., Francis Lightfoot Lee, and Carter Braxton. Huzzah! Pennsylvania! Robert Morris, Benjamin Rush, Benjamin Franklin, John Morton, George Clymer, James Smith, George Taylor, James Wilson, and George Ross. Huzzah! Delaware! Let me hear. Good, good. Caesar Rodney, George Reed, and Thomas McKean. Huzzah! New York, William Floyd, Philip Livingston, Francis Lewis, and Lewis Morris. Huzzah! New Jersey, Richard Stockton, John Witherspoon, Francis Hopkinson, John Hart, and Abraham Clark. Huzzah! New Hampshire, Matthew Thornton, Josiah Bartlett, and William Whipple. Huzzah! Massachusetts, Samuel Adams, John Adams, Robert Treat Payne, and Elbridge Gerry. Huzzah! Rhode Island, glad to see you here. Stephen Hopkins and William Ellery. Huzzah! Connecticut, Roger Sherman, Samuel Huntington, William Williams, and Oliver Walcott. Huzzah! And attesting to these, the Secretary, Charles Thompson. Huzzah! And my fellow Americans, let us all rise up our voice in affirmation to what has been written, to what we have put our lives to. Everybody, huzzah! Huzzah! Huzzah!
Thank you, Private Hector. Now, before we have the program finale, I want to tell you about some of the activities that we have inside the National Archives for you today. The building will close at 7 p.m., so don't miss your chance to see the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Magna Carta. We also have special hands-on July 4th family activities in the museum until 4. And make sure to stop by the National Archives store tent for exclusive Independence Day products that support educational outreach and events like this at the National Archives. And I'd also like to thank the people who make this year's July 4th celebration possible. The National Archives Foundation and sponsors of this great event, Comcast Corporation, Microsoft Corporation, John Hancock, and Dykema. 19th Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Joanne "Jo" Bass, our keynote speaker. How wonderful. The American Historical Theater reenactors portraying Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin. And our representative of the Continental Army, Private Ned Hector, and guests General George Washington, John Hancock, Abigail Adams, and James Forten. We'd like to thank the Continental Color Guard from the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard, and the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, Fife and Drum Corps. The Marymount University Chamber Singers and Director, Dr. Kimberly Hess, Millicent Scarlett, and the Experience Band and Show. And of course, we wouldn't have this celebration without the hard work of the staff and volunteers at the National Archives. And I also want to thank you for joining us to commemorate the 248th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence. The National Independence Day Parade starts at 11:45, right after this ceremony. But before the parade starts, the Experience Band and Show will join us on stage once more for some live music. I wish you all gathered here today and beyond a wonderful 4th of July, and I hope you stay for our finale and take part in our activities this afternoon. Be sure to share your 4th of July experience on social media. Use that hashtag ArchivesJuly4. And now, please remain seated as we welcome Miss Millicent Scarlett, who will close our program with America the Beautiful.
Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plains. America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful, for patriot's dream that sees beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities gleam